Hello, Father Fred here again today. We've just finished chapter 30, and it was crook against crook. Now, if this happens to be the first time that you've come on, or maybe not even the first time, but if it's the first time you've come on, and you're going to hear about one author from the north and one author from the south, and you're wondering what that means, go to chapter 1 in my profile and find where we start out and explaining the different writers that we have here in the scriptures. And it'll mean a whole lot more to you. Otherwise, if you're going to get who's the north and who's the south, and who's the priest, and where did Deuteronomy come from? So just to understand better, just if you'd go there. Now, in the past, Jacob and Laban, they took turns deceiving one another. They're the two. There could be a song about them. I am the great deceiver. First, Laban deceives Jacob about Rachel, because Jacob he's going to look for a wife. So he goes up and he finds this good looking girl, Rachel, and he just goes up and kisses her and tells her who he is, and they decide to get married. And so Laban lies about Rachel to Jacob, because what he does is he tricks him. I don't know if Jacob was drunk, or if she had on a veil when they came at night, or what happened. But for one reason or another, this author, I think, is enjoying himself. He doesn't get Rachel. Laban brings his other daughter and tells him that here's your wife. So he doesn't see it till the next morning. Then he wakes up and, wow, what is Leah doing here? I'm supposed to marry Jacob. And to do that, he said he would work for 7 years. And Laban said, okay. And he knew all along what he was doing. And what he did was he told Jacob that, well, you can, in our custom, we have to marry the oldest daughter first. So you're stuck with her. But if you want Rachel, you can work 7 more years. So he really pulled the wool over Jacob's eyes. Now, then it's Jacob's time to get him. So Jacob comes to him and he says, I want to work for you, but I don't want even salary. I'm just going to work for free, but it's not free. And boy, Laban thinks, wow, I've hit the jackpot. So he tells him this. He said, but then he tells him what it is that he does want. He said, I will work for you, and all I will ask is for me to get the spotted animals, or those that have some defect, they're weaker animals, and I'll just take them. And Laban, he thinks about it, I guess, and he says, okay, that's okay. You can get those animals. They're not that good. Well, Laban did have, I think, either second thoughts or he had it planned all along. He gave those animals to his sons to take away for 3 days' walk. So when Jacob went there, he had no animals in the flock. They were gone. So Jacob decides he's going to find a way to get back with him. And he doesn't just get back with him. He tramples him in his deception. So what he does is, and this is kind of like a fairy tale, he takes some tree limbs and he cuts off the bark. And when he cuts off the bark, it just leaves the white part of the bark. And this is supposed to work in a certain way so that whenever the animals come to get a drink, if they're the strong animals, he puts these tree limbs up there and some miraculous way causes them to give birth to spotted animals or the weaker animals. And so what he has done, he's going to build up his herd, and of course Laban doesn't know about it. So he's building up his herd of the strongest ones, and he's going to send the weakest ones back to Jacob. So his are going to be spotted and speckled and striped, just because that he put those tree limbs that are in front of him. And then comes the time that Jacob says, well, I want to go home. So that's where we are right now. He's going to be wanting to go home in chapter 31. So let's go to chapter 31 And it's going to be it's going to be interesting. Still going to be the crooks are out there. Let's look at verse 1. We read, Jacob heard that Laban's sons were saying, Jacob has taken everything that belonged to our father, and he has produced all this wealth from our father's property. And he has. He's got all the good, strong animals, and he's left Laban with the weaker animals. He just happened to get the last laugh, or the last crook. And then it says, Jacob perceived, too, that Laban's attitude toward him was not as it had previously been. Well, I wonder why. You rob a guy and you wonder, well, why is it that? Now, here's something that's coming up. Whenever, and this is what I was talking about, you might need to go back to the first chapter. If the writer is from the north, he's going to use the word God for the supreme being, and he's going to have dreams. If he's from the south, he's going to use the words either Lord or Jehovah or Yahweh, one of those. And he's going to write it a little bit different way. Okay. Those first two lines were what we call from the north. Or we say E because God in Hebrew was Elohim, or El for singular. So we call that E. We call the one from the south J because of like Jehovah, or before it came to English, it was Yahweh, but Yahweh was spelled with a J. J had a Y sound in German and in overseas. So when it came into English, we changed from Yahweh to Jehovah. It's kind of just a mistransliteration, they say. You got the letters. You got the right letter, but you got the wrong sound. Okay. The first two are from E, are from the north. And if the third one, however, is from the south, and it reads this way. Then the Lord, and when you see Lord, you're talking about somebody from the south. Then the Lord said to Jacob, return to the land of your ancestors where you were born, and I will be with you. Now that's a good sentence, but it doesn't fit into there. The redactor or the editor just decided he's going to put it in there because he wants to put it someplace. He doesn't want to lose out for these people from the south. So we're going to just skip verse 3, and we're going to read 1, 2, and 4, and you're going to see how it just flows evenly without that other one that interrupted. So let's start again with 1. Jacob heard that Laban's sons were saying, Jacob has taken everything that belonged to our father, and he has produced all of this wealth from our father's property. Sure. Verse 2. Jacob perceived too that Laban's attitude toward him was not what it had previously been. Shouldn't be. Verse 4. Then the Lord, verse 4. So Jacob sent for Rachel and Leah to meet him in the field where his flock was. He's going to get out of there. He wants to take his 2 wives and go. And we just skipped that verse 3. Verse 5 says, Then he said to them, I have noticed that your father's attitude toward me is not as it was in the past, but the God of my father. When you see God, it's from the north. But the God of my father has been with me. Wonder, is with him while he's tricking him? He's got an odd idea for God. Verse 6, you know well that all my strength I served your father with everything I had. It's just that I was cheating while I was doing it. But he got cheated too. If this is God's chosen people, and they're this way, you wonder, what in the world are the ones like that are not in God's family? That might not be a good country to travel through. Verse 7, yet your father cheated me and changed my wages 10 times. Now, that's the first time we've heard of that. And maybe he did it, or maybe he's not above lying. God, and that's from the north still, God, however, did not let him do me any harm. He couldn't hurt me. He changed his wages 10 times. Sounds like that might hurt some. And then we go to verse 8. Whenever your father said, the speckled animals will be your wages, the entire flock would bear speckled young. Whenever he said, The streaked animals will be your wages. The entire flock would be streaked. He's going to make them all streaked by putting those tree limbs up there in front of them. Verse 9, so God took away your father's livestock and gave it to me. I got the good ones, he got the bad ones. Once during the flock's mating season, I had a dream. So if you got a dream, you're from the north. Once during the flock's mating season, I had a dream in which I saw the he-goats meeting that were streaked, speckled, and mottled. Those are the ones that are the weaker ones. And in the dream, God's angel said to me, Jacob. And I replied, here I am. That's a phrase that's used. Here I am, use me, God. Verse 12. Then he said, look up and see. All the he-goats that are mating are streaked, spotted, and mottled, for I have seen all the things that Laban has been doing to you. So it's the angel. Sounds like he did it. Verse 13. I am the God of Bethel. Bethel means the house of God, where you anointed a sacred pillar and made a vow to me. Back there, if you remember, that when he built an altar there in Bethel, and he said it was called Luz, L-U-Z, but he changed it to Bethel. It's like the house of God. Get up now. Leave this land and return to the land of your birth. Now, the land of his birth was Canaan. Rachel and Leah answered him, do we still have an heir's portion in our father's house? It's like, wait a minute now. You paid Daddy for us, but we didn't get any of it. But Daddy's getting older. He might pass on. If he does, do we still have any possession? Probably not. He's not real fond of them because they don't do as he says. Verse 15. Are we not regarded to him as outsiders? It's like we don't even belong in his family. He not only sold us, he's even used up the money that he got for us. Nice guy to have. 16. And the wealth that God took away from our father really belongs to us and our children. Sure it does. So if he's not going to take care of us, the last verse says, so do whatever God has told you. Let's get out of here, in other words. Verse 17. Jacob proceeded to put his children and wives on camels. So he's got a lot of things. And he drove off all his livestock and the property he had acquired in Paddan Aram to go to his father Isaac, to his house in Canaan. He wants to go back home. He's a Canaanite, or he lives in the Canaan. Verse 19. Now Laban was away shearing his sheep, and Rachel had stolen his father's household images. Even the wives are stealing now. Why would she want to steal his images? Maybe they're made out of gold or something. But a couple of things tell you here. Laban either is not a follower of Yahweh because he's got his own gods, or he was at one time and fell away. Maybe he never was. But anyway, he's got his own gods, and it's not Yahweh. And his daughter steals them from him. Verse 20. Jacob had hoodwinked Laban, the Aramean, by not telling him that he was going to flee. He's leaving there. He's getting out with all the cattle, all the good sheep. 21. Thus he fled with all that he had. Once he was across the Euphrates. Now the Euphrates is east of Israel, and it's where Abraham was from. He was from right by for a place named Ur, right by the Euphrates River, and it's called Ur of the Chaldeans because the tribe of people that lived there were Chaldean. Verse 22. On the third day, word came to Laban that Jacob had fled. 3 days went by before he found out about it. Taking his kinsman with him, he pursued him for 7 days until he caught up with him in the hill country of Gilead. That's between the Euphrates and Israel. Verse 24. But that night God, so it's from the north, God appeared to Laban the Aramean in a dream and said to him, take care not to say anything to Jacob. God is going to protect Jacob. Don't say anything. We know you caught up with him, but don't you be harsh with him. Then Jacob and Laban meet in Gilead. Verse 25. When Laban overtook Jacob, Jacob's tents were pitched in the hill country. Laban also pitched his tents in the hill country of Gilead, right close. Laban said to Jacob, now they're together, how could you hoodwink me and carry off my daughters like prisoners of war? His daughters, they're Jacob's wives. Usually when your daughter marries somebody, they have a new family. They're still your daughters, but they're not robbing you if they move someplace where you don't live. But Jacob's just poor old Laban. He's mad and he can't say anything, so he's just trying to, as best he can, express himself and get it off his chest, but still not go against God's will, not to chastise him. Verse 27. Why did you dupe me by stealing away secretly? You did not tell me. If you had told me, I would have sent you off with joyful singing to the sound of tambourines and harps. Sure you would. The only reason you're there is because he stole your sheep. You're not going to send him out with music whenever he leaves. 28. You did not allow me a parting kiss to my daughters and grandchildren. Now, what have you done? Makes no sense. Verse 29. I have it in my power to harm all of you. But last night the God of your father said to me, the God of your father. Evidently, it's not the God of his. He didn't say the God of our father. The God of your father said to me, take care not to say anything to Jacob. It's not his God, but he's talking to him. He's threatening him. 30. Verse 30. Granted that you had to leave because you were longing for your father's house, why did you steal my gods? Now that's the first time that Jacob hears of that. Jacob replied to Laban, I was frightened at the thought that you might take your daughters away from me by force. He's not very brave. He's afraid that he's just going to say something. I was afraid you'd take your daughters away from me. That's his wives. As for your gods, now he doesn't know about this. The one who you find them with shall not remain alive. He's going to kill whoever's told him. He doesn't know he's putting a curse on his wife. She stole his gods. If, with our kinsmen looking on, you identify anything here as belonging to you, take it. Jacob had no idea that Rachel had stolen the household images. 33. Laban went in and searched Jacob's tent and Leah's tent as well, and the tents of the two maidservants. What did he find? Nothing. But he did not find them. Leaving Leah's tent, he went to Rachel's. Now that's could get scary because Rachel's got them. But she's as tricky as the rest of them. 34 says, meanwhile, Rachel had taken the household images and put them inside the camel's saddlebags and seated herself upon them. And when Laban had rummaged through her whole tent without finding them, he's not finding a thing because she's sitting on them. She said to her father, do not let my Lord be angry that I cannot rise in your presence. I'm having my period. Having my period. So despite his search, he did not find the household images. Now, blood is life, and it's from God to us. God gives us life. So if it is her period, she has blood above the images, which God's blood cleanses us of our images. 36. Jacob, now angered, confronted Laban and demanded, what crime or offense have I committed that you should hound me? Jacob said, why are you getting after me like this? Nobody stole your gods. Verse 37, now that you have rummaged through all my things, what have you found from your household belongings? Produce it here before your kinsmen and mine, and let them decide between the two of us who's right and who's wrong. This is a long chapter, but it's not much longer. Verse 38. In the 20 years I was under you, no ewe, a ewe is a female sheep, no ewe or she-goat of yours ever miscarried, and I have never eaten rams of your flock. I've taken care of you 20 years. So 14 of them was working to get Rachel, and he stayed there 6 more. Verse 39, I never brought you an animal torn by wild beast. I made good the loss myself. He gave one of his. You held me responsible for anything stolen by day or night. That's the way you've treated me, and now you're coming here telling me I'm stolen your gods? 40. Often the scorching heat devoured me by day, and the frost by night, while sleep fled my eyes. Poor Jacob. Of the 20 years that I have now spent in your household, I served you 14 years for your 2 daughters and 6 years for your flock, while you changed my wages 10 times. When? That's the first time we've heard that. He's changed his wages 10 times. Maybe he has, maybe he hasn't. Verse 42, if the God of my father, the God of Abraham, and the fear of Isaac had not been on my side, you would now have sent me away empty-handed, without anything. But God saw my plight and the fruits of my toil, and last night he reproached you. He told you not to say anything bad to me. Verse 43, Laban replied to Jacob, the daughters are mine. Their children are mine, and the flocks are mine. Everything that you see belongs to me. How come? Don't get married if daddy's going to make you stay home. What can I do now for my own daughters and for the children they have borne? Verse 44, come, now let us make a covenant. Well, that's quick, isn't it? You and I will be a treaty between you and me, a covenant, you and I. It will be a treaty between you and me. Why does he want a covenant between them after they've stolen everything from him? Then Jacob took a stone and set it up as a sacred pillar. Jacob said to his kinsmen, gather stones. So they got stones and made a mound, and they ate there at the mound. When you make a pact, when they made a pact, they always sealed it with a meal. Laban called it Jegar Sahadutha, but Jacob called it Gilead. Why would one call it Gilead and one call it another name? 48. Laban said, this mound will be a witness from now on between you and me. That is why it was called Gilead. So Jacob got his way. 49. We slip another verse in there from the south. And also Mizpah, for he said, may the Lord, keep watch between you and me when we are out of each other's sight. That has just been stuck in there because the author wants to get all of these writings in there, whether he has to stick them here or there. But then we go back to the north. Jay was from the south. 50. If you mistreat my daughters or take other wives besides my daughters, no, even though no one else is there, God will be a witness between you and me. What right does he have to say you can't be married to anybody else? Because polygamy was fine for them. He's got 2 wives and 2 concubines already. Verse 51. Laban said further to Jacob, here is the mound, and here is the sacred pillar that I have set up between you and me. So Jacob's the one that set up the pillar. 52. This mound will be a witness. A mound is going to be a witness. It's kind of like shaking hands for us. And this sacred pillar will be a witness that with hostile intent, I may not pass beyond this mound into your territory, nor may you pass beyond it into mine. It's the agreement. You stay on your side, I'll stay on my side. Verse 53. This is one long chapter, but it's just got 2 more verses. May the God of Abraham and the God of Nahor. Now remember who Nahor was? If you don't, you can go back to chapter 16, and there's some little charts there, and one of them's got the family tree of Abraham. And Nahor was Abraham's brother. But he died before Abraham left Ur. So the only thing of his that went on was his nephew named Lot. The God of Nahor, the God of their father, judge between us. Jacob took the oath by the fear of his father Isaac. They take it by the fear. Maybe the fear means they fear that they would do something that hurt their father. The last verse. He then offered a sacrifice on the mountain and invited his kinsmen to share the meal. There's going to be a meal if there is a treaty made. When they had eaten, they passed the night on the mountain. Mountain is a good place to pass the night because mountains are sacred to them. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Got a lot of crooks in this family. Maybe it makes us feel better with our family. God bless.